Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, and you're watching a video from my most recent Locals appearance this past weekend, in which I played Thunder Hero. It was a larger turnout than usual, 29 people, and as a result I figured I probably had to play something good. But I made it just a little bit worse at the last minute by putting in 3 Mask Change 2. I wanted to play Pure Hero, but unfortunately a Duster and Malicious Bane didn't come in time, so I had to settle for this. Now, unfortunately, in the second round of the tournament, I recognized the Mask Change 2 actually has text on it. It cares about levels, so you can't, as I had hoped, activate it sending something like a Beat Cop, which you frequently land on, to the graveyard in order to make Dark Law. More importantly, it says the level has to be lower, not less than or equal to, meaning the level 6 Dark monsters aren't targets for Mask Change 2. This unfortunately means the only one you can send is exactly Dark. It's not ideal, but I made it work a couple of times, and that was really worth it. My opponent is playing a machine deck. I know this person pretty well. They are a Trickstar aficionado, and with these two mats, the winner of this duel gets to marry Candina. Their deck is incredibly cool, and will get better when the Mecha Phantom Beast link comes out. This is a build that I really am interested in. It's Sky Strikers plus Train cards in order to frequently make the Earth Machine that is Kana, summoning additional Train material from hand, proccing things like Revolving Switchyard, and going into Liebe early and often. You can see I'm just executing the basic Thunder combo here. We're going to send this copy of Hawk to the graveyard in order to bring back Dark, and unfortunately this is the end of my turn. I would like to set these 2 copies of Mask Change 2 and potentially go into Dark Law, but I have that extra monster zone clogged by a Colossus. I'm just going to have to represent that I don't know what I'm doing and hope that my opponent falls for it. Thankfully, as a routine idiot, it's not that big of a bluff. They're going to shuffle a few times and then take their turn. This deck aims to go second as often as possible because Liebe is not very good going first. The first thing they're going to do, thank the Lord, is tribute over my copy of Colossus for a Gamciel. This sounds very bad for me, but of course becomes very good when you realize it enables me to Mask Change 2 into Dark Law now that my EMZ is open. This build specifically will get much better during Master Rule 5, but will continue to be worse than almost anything in the game because it's a ridiculous idea. We're going to go into Dark Law, and wow, because we sent the Dark to the graveyard, we get to proc that effect too. The pluses! Oh, I'm gonna plus! You can see he's gotten Revolving Switchyard, not a particularly strong option under Dark Law. One of its effects adds a card from the deck to the hand, but unfortunately, that effect requires you to send a card from your hand to the graveyard. The other is still on, but it's much harder to proc. I'm going to go ahead and get a copy of Thunder Dragon Fusion. The reason I get Thunder Dragon Fusion and not, say, a important Thunder Dragon is because the set card I still have, I think blocked by the name of my deck, is a Paleozoic Dynamiscus. It means I'll need a potential discard for that, and Thunder Dragon Fusion is good enough. It will allow me to banish it from the graveyard and pop off next turn by searching something like a Thunder Dragon Duo. I'm now going to roll a die, getting a card out of my opponent's hand. We'll take that one, and guess what it is? Well, that's not particularly relevant. The Sky Striker portion of this deck is extremely interesting. You can see my opponent's about to activate drones from hand, which usually goes into Kagari, adding back the drones and then making a Kana. The Kana procs a multitude of effects in the deck, but unfortunately without the ability to re-summon that token, he's going to have to go into Kana first. This prevents him from summoning 1 additional monster, which is probably good enough in this individual instance. I'm going to remind him that yes, Dark Law does have text on it, and he's going to go ahead and send this token to the Netherworld in order to link summon a copy of Kana. Now, Kana has an effect, but unfortunately it's not going to win him in time anytime soon because he's out of Sky Striker spells. It will be able to prevent my monsters from attacking, but neither of these monsters are going to make it to the next battle phase, I'd wager, either because my opponent is going to link off into an incredibly powerful monster, or because I'm going to link them off for a Beat Cop. They're going to activate the hand effect of Crane, and I'm going to have to read it. Yeah, it actually does work, shockingly. Usually what Crane is used for is to give an incredibly powerful Xyz monster like Superior Dora proactive ability, able to pop your opponent's spells and traps instead of just reacting to their removal for your monster. Of course, I don't think it's very likely our opponent is going to make an Xyz this turn because they're going to have to jump through some hoops. They're going to activate Revolving Switchyard. Of course, I'll wait for the activation since it does discard a card for cost in order to activate Paleozoic Dynamiscus. But I was shocked to learn when I read the card that actually it doesn't discard for cost, it sends to the graveyard, so without the ability to do that, it's not actually able to activate under the macrocosmos that is Dark Law. Dark Law, still disruptive in 2020. He's going to look at the extra deck real quick. There's not a ton you could go into. Hayate here would be okay, but it's not going to be able to use its effect to send something to the graveyard very productively. The Shizuku might do something, but of course I do have a Dark Law in my extra monster zone. You don't really want to be adding cards to the hand under that, and with one set card, that could easily be a second copy of Mask Change to rip it away. He's going to thumb his hand real quickly and decide to go to battle phase. Now, Derek Crane has 2800 attack, but only under certain conditions. If it's summoned with its own effect from the hand, its attack goes down to 1400. For that reason, it won't be able to walk over Darklaw, and he'll have to call off the attack. Well, with that out of the way, he will pass it back to me. I'll take one quick look at the set card. I don't really want to activate Dynamiscus here because that card isn't a particularly big threat to me, but I do want to get this copy of Thunder Dragon Fusion in the graveyard, so I'll go ahead and fire it off. We'll banish our opponent's copy of Revolving Switchyard. They have one remaining in hand, but I don't think they're going to get to the next turn. We're going to lead with a copy of, you guessed it, Thunder Dragon Fusion. Here we have a couple of options as to what we're getting. Obviously, in a vacuum, the best thing to get is a card that you can activate in hand in order to proc the Thunder Dragon's effects, but that's not necessarily what I want to go for. For example, I could get a copy of Thunder Dragon Duo and proc the graveyard effects that I already have, while putting pressure on my opponent. Either way, it's unlikely they're going to survive until the next turn, unless I routinely screw this up. We're going to go for a copy of Thunder Dragon Roar, which of course telegraphs that I have an Allure of Darkness in my hand. These two cards are so powerful together, and really that's the only reason you would search anything other than the two aforementioned. Of course, you can Ash Blossom this if you prefer, but why wouldn't you just Ash the effect of Thunder Dragon Roar? I'm not too in the tank about this one. I'll go ahead and activate the effect of Thunder Dragon Roar. This special summons a Thunder Dragon monster from my deck, and I'm effectively just playing on autopilot now. We'll go into Thunder Dragon Dark, and we gotta get rid of these two nothing monsters. Those two are going to become a copy of Beat Cop. It's important to play a generic card in your extra deck just so you can link away monsters in situations like these, especially if you're playing Mask Change 2, which again, I would not recommend. Our hand is still looking pretty stacked. We've got a copy of Instant Fusion, you can see, along with what appears to be another Allure of Darkness and no additional monster. I'm not feeling particularly brave just yet. The one problem with this hand is that we haven't yet activated the effect of a Thunder monster in hand. As a result, we're going to have to burn a copy of Thunder Dragon Matrix just so we can summon a copy of Thunder Dragon Colossus. From here, it should be smooth sailing. We'll use Dark's effect in order to get a Thunder card from our deck to our hand. There are so many options, I kind of get struck with choice paralysis in scenarios like these. I'm going to go ahead and set aside an individual card and look at the graveyard real quick. I want to add a copy of Thunder Dragon Fusion, but I don't think that's lethal, unfortunately. You can see me thumbing over a Thunder Dragon Duo, but it'd be much more powerful if, unfortunately, I had not already activated a whole bunch of Thunder Monster effects over the course of the turn. Banishing a couple of Thunder Monsters is really only good if you're getting their effects. My opponent's going to look at his graveyard real quick. Yeah, there's nothing in there that's particularly relevant. I finally settle on the Thunder Dragon Duo. At the very least, if I'm not going to OTK my opponent this turn, it's the best card for setting up future plays. Its effects are actually incredibly powerful. You should not allow this card to survive if you have the opportunity. We'll go ahead and activate the Duo's effect in hand, special summoning itself by banishing a Light and a Dark from the graveyard. I first thumb over Dark and Matrix and then realize, wait, I have a bunch of terrible cards in here. Why don't I get through those first? We're instead going to banish a copy of Dark Law, rest in peace, my young man, and a copy of Some Summer Summoner, his Failson. We're then going to set an individual card, that could be anything, and fire off an Allure of Darkness into an empty hand. I'll draw two cards off the top, and please, 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 we did hit a Dark. It looks like we also hit a copy of Hawk. That's insane. Well, the last set card is an Instant Fusion, and an additional Thunder monster should enable a Thunder Dragon Titan here. I'm thinking about activating it and finally decide to go for it, taking 1,000 of my own life points in order to special summon a copy of Kanamari Attack. Afterwards, we'll be able to banish our Thunder Fusion monster alongside a Thunder monster in our hand to go into a copy of Thunder Dragon Fusion. First, my opponent is going to tabulate my life points on his iOS device. After resolution of this spell, I'll go ahead and do the aforementioned play, banishing both this copy of Kanamari Attack and the Thunder Dragon Hawk, which unfortunately won't be able to activate its effect because we have nothing in hand. Let's go ahead and go to battle phase. We should be able to walk over everything on board and deal a fair amount of damage to our opponent's life points, but unfortunately I don't think we're going to win. We're going to lead with this copy of Thunder Dragon Duo. Now, when Thunder Dragon Duo destroys an opponent's monster by battle, it's able to banish a single card from your graveyard in order to add a Thunder monster from your deck to your hand. I'm going to go ahead and get one that I think will be important in the coming turns. You can see I'm adding Matrix here specifically because then I'll be able to destroy an individual card with Titan on my own terms. After that, we're going to go ahead and get in with Thunder Dragon Colossus, Thunder Dragon Titan, and Beat Cop herself. Now, against the machine deck, they are playing a small Cyber Dragon suite, so you don't want to leave things in the extra monster zone. As a result, I'll use Beat-Cop's effect to protect this copy of Thunder Dragon Duo. It has an additional effect that triggers if your opponent allows you to get to the end phase, so if that happens, we want to make sure we're ready. Our opponent's going to look at the 2 cards in his hand. Unfortunately, he's drawn a Cosmic Cyclone and will concede. So for game 2, they elect to go first, and this is not something that the machine deck does often. Routinely, it goes second at OTKs. Let's see what it can set up on the play. I'm going to slam my hand down on the table. I have no intention of interrupting my opponent at any point during this combo. Unfortunately, my grip isn't particularly good. No Dark Law shenanigans! But I should still be able to clutch it out, provided they don't go too far. They're going to activate Toon Table of Contents, which I am shocked about. At the very least, it's a way to turn on the Striker spells and get more effort out of something like Engage. At a minimum, it searches Toon Cyber Dragon, which is kind of a removal spell. At the very least, it reminds me that I want to be not putting monsters in the extra monster zone. They're going to add a copy of Toon Cyber Dragon to the hand. Again, this is a card that is much better going second than going first, but I don't think they can allow me to get a copy of Colossus up. That's fair. A lot of decks that aim to OTK do add cards to their hand in the process, and have to play a really crusty game 2 against something like Thunder Dragon. You can see they've drawn an Ash Blossom. That should come in handy. They're going to set 1. Think for a while about the very specific contents of their hand. You can see a Sky Striker Eagle booster in there to protect something in the extra monster zone. Activate a copy of Revolving Switchyard. Thumb over another card. And then finally end on 1 additional set card. Now, this is telegraphing something pretty hard. You wouldn't activate Revolving Switchyard into nothing and not activate its effect unless you had exactly Urgent Schedule set. I expect that one of those 2 is Urgent Schedule, but blind MSTing isn't very good against Urgent Schedule because if it's destroyed by my effect, then they get to pop off even further. Instead, I'm going to read this copy of Revolving Switchyard, masking under the logo there, and then fire off an Allure of Darkness. My opponent, unfortunately, activates Ash Blossom now. Oh, you gotta wait until I go to activate the effect of something like Roar. I don't blame them, of course. There's many scenarios in which you're not able to do so. This is one of them. Aloof Lupine can, of course, prevent your opponent from ashing your important card by Chain Link blocking. We're banishing, unfortunately, a copy of Thunder Dragon Duo because our hand is terrible. Still, this should be full combo. We can banish something like a Thunder Dragon Roar, and provided it doesn't get interrupted, we should be able to beat our opponent. I'm going to do just that, banishing a copy of Thunder Dragon Roar and then triggering the effect to get a copy of Thunder Dragon Anything to my side of the field. Most likely that's going to be a copy of Thunder Dragon Dark, which I'll then link away with this copy of Aloof Lupine into something like a Beat Cop in order to add a copy of Thunder Dragon Hawk to my hand so we can have activated a hand effect of a Thunder monster and go into something like Colossus. My opponent will fire a Urgent Schedule as I predicted, but thankfully we have the Ash Blossom. We'll go ahead and link it this time. We'll go into a copy of Beat Cop. Again, important you're playing either this or Lancelephorus. Oh god, I'm never going to say that name right. So that you can link away extraneous material like Aloof Lupine. I prefer Beat Cop for 2 reasons. 1, she gets herself out of the extra monster zone, and 2, she's dark. You run out of darks in the graveyard more often than you run out of lights. We're going to go ahead and get a copy of Thunder Dragon Hawk. As prophesized earlier, it's almost as if I played this very game, and I'm just narrating what I actually did. We'll activate the effect of Hawk to get a copy of Roar, then we'll send that Roar to the graveyard for a copy of Colossus. Now I make a small misplay here in keeping it in attack position. Against the Liebe deck, you do not want to give your opponent something to walk into. I'm a little bit too excited at the prospect of dealing, 3,600 points of damage to my opponent's life points, and fall for the trap of the battle phase. We'll go into battle and attack directly with both Colossus and Beat Cop, putting our opponent to a healthy 44, probably keeping Colossus in defense position and not risking the game would be better, but what are you going to do? We'll activate the effect of Beat Cop to ensure my Colossus won't be destroyed by battle or card effect once, like it would be anyway, and then we'll pass it back to my opponent. For turn, our opponent rips an Urgent Schedule off the top. Ugh, they always seem to do it, and unfortunately I don't have the second copy of Ash Blossom, so it looks like we've got a game on our hands. He's going to shuffle through the deck, decide what he wants to summon off of this Urgent Schedule. The possibilities are almost endless, and is that a Drowning Mirror Force I just saw? Wow, that's incredibly cool going first. I'm very thankful that that set card is in fact a Shark Cannon, and not a Drowning Mirror Force, so I don't look like a fool who doesn't play around Duel Links era spells. I'm going to look at this Revolving Switchyard. Unfortunately, it is going to trigger off of this Urgent Schedule, I believe, and that unfortunately means that the clock is ticking for me. If he's able to summon something like a Flying Pegasus, and then summon an additional Flying Pegasus off of this copy of Revolving Switchyard, he'll be able to use the Grave effect of this Speeding Bullet in order to add the copy of Flying Pegasus back, activate the Flying Pegasus effect next turn, and then make a Liebe all over again. Effectively, I have to not die here to Liebe, and I have to not die next turn as well. I gotta close it out immediately after this, or I'm gonna be out of options. Notice I have one card in hand, that's all that I have facing down this nonsense. Here comes the second Pegasus, and I am concerned. This one card I have set should be able to deal with a Gustav Max, for example, but won't be able to deal with the follow-up plays, so I will absolutely have to draw something incredible off the top of my deck if I aim to actually win. We're getting in a little bit of a tussle right here. I'm trying to figure out if Revolving Switchyard actually activates off of Urgent Schedule, and finally I conclude it does. He's pointing to Speeding Bullet Train and saying, yes, so this is a level 10 monster, something that for some reason I didn't believe. They just let anyone have a YouTube channel these days. Our opponent will shuffle the deck, pass it back to me, I'll give it a good old shuffle myself, and then they'll start overlaying. Of course, the effect of Railcar allows him to make the level of one of the monsters the level of both of the monsters, which means that he'll be able to have a 10 extremely easily. I believe he uses the one summoned from deck here before overlaying for a copy of Gustav Max. Gustav Max, of course, can do 2,000 points of damage to my life points. He's going to overlay for that. Think about it real quick. I don't think there's anything better to go into before I say out loud, on the summon. He's going to wait for me to decide what I aim to do with my turn. I don't know what I'm bluffing here. There's really nothing that I could be doing other than this. I can't die to Liebe, which is the only thing that happens if I leave that monster on board. I do have a copy of Paleozoic Dynamiscus, so I will banish that monster, but unfortunately that means the Bullet Train goes to the graveyard, and at end phase we'll be able to do exactly what my opponent wants. They have one card in defense position I will have to get through before I make an attempt at their life points. I will have to draw absolutely incredible to get out of this one. They're going to activate the graveyard effect of Bullet Train in order to add Flying Pegasus back to hand. I'm once again going to read this copy of Urgent Schedule. There's got to be some downside to this card, and unfortunately for me, there is not. The Pegasus goes back, and he will pass it. For turn I draw, bum ba bum 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 bum, looking at the graveyard and praying really fast. Let's see what it is. It's Hawk. I drew Hawk off the top. This doesn't happen often that I draw this well, but when I do, I feel like a complete sack. As well I should. Well, this should be the end of the game. I should be able to execute the combo from here. It's just a matter of determining how I want to do it. Since I've activated the effect of a Thunder Monster in hand, this Roar can be tributed for a copy of Thunder Dragon Colossus, which is going to let us extend further by using Roar's effect to get a copy of Dark from deck. We'll do just that, using Roar's effect to get a copy of Dark after we make our Thunder Dragon Colossus number 2. Important to keep the one with the token on the field because it's prettier. We're then going to get a copy of Dark from deck, and next we're going to be able to link away. Thankfully, though we don't have another generic in our extra, these are both Thunder, which means we will be able to go into our Dad Bod King, Some Summer Summoner. We're going to go ahead and fetch him out of our extra deck. Ooh, looking good, friend. And then we're going to trigger the effect of Dark. From here, we should be able to get almost anything we want. We could get Thunder Dragon Duo, but I don't think that's exactly where we want to be. Thunder Dragon Fusion seems like the best option, especially with so few cards in hand. This is the only one that represents a potential third turn play should we get that far. I, of course, don't know what the set card is. To all my understanding, it could be a Drowning Mirror Force, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm going to look at the graveyard real quick to make sure we have the requisite material, and thankfully we do. We have more than enough Thunder Monsters to shuffle back for a copy of Titan. We'll go ahead and fire off this copy of Thunder Dragon Fusion, which of course is going to make a Titan at the link point of Some Summer Summoner. In Master Rule 5, this is going to be a real force to reckon with. We're going to go ahead and shuffle back a copy of Colossus so that we have an additional one alongside a Dark, and it looks like we've got 2 Hawks in here, so we might as well send one of those as well. The Colossus back to the extra, and the 2 Thunder Dragons back to the main, and it is time for Titan to make an appearance. We'll then use another Colossus to send this Some Summer Summoner to the graveyard where he can finally get some rest after a long day of relaxation, and this should be lethal if he so allows it. He does, and we take this game in a pretty quick 2-0. A fantastic showing from Thunder Hero, and a very interesting deck from our opponent as well. See you next time.